Right, that's fair enough, but the others, I think they're wrong anyway. Any other questions on these points 1 to 14 as are in the notes? Yeah, Steve?
Number 14, just to say that Heather Baker has done some good work for us, especially in my early days as clerk. And I'd like to ask the parish council to consider getting some kind of a tribute.
Yes, I'm quite happy to use chair's expenses for that. I don't know if any of the rest of you know Heather Baker. Yeah. I mean, she has worked with us. I mean, since the days of Rob Ward. There's a name from the past.
That is a name.
Actually, I think she was part of the original parish's liaison team before it became disbanded and then re-established.
Yeah.
So I think, again, if you're happy, Steve and I will perhaps contact Kay Pettit, who is effectively her boss, find out what would be appropriate, flowers or whatever. Or perhaps Milton Keynes Council's got a donation and we'll make a donation or flowers, depending on what she says. Is that okay with everyone?
Absolutely, no problem. Very helpful lady.
Right. Right. On 13, sorry, in 12 there, just for the record and anyone watching, this is about a suggestion that we introduce parking permits in the Station Road parking area, really to try and control the parking there, because some of the residents can't get a space in the off-road parking. I got the details of a parking permit scheme through from MKC. The way they do it in quite a lot of places. These things are resident-led, typically. It's got to be the residents who are affected who have to come forward. And they do make a charge for the permits to those households, £24 a year. The particular resident who raised this with me felt that that wouldn't actually receive support from the majority of residents in the road, in that particular part of the road. There's 14 houses, I think, affected, and therefore it's not being progressed. I mean, if they come back and want any more information, we're very happy to provide it to any of the residents there.
I would have thought it would be quite difficult to enforce as well, because the problems at night, and I can't see the council sending out traffic ordinance.
Well, yeah, no, I mean, that is a separate settlement. Right, looking through the second set of lower priority typical things that are on hold.
Six guilty.
Guilty. This is the chain and combination lock for the it's fish ponds, isn't it?
Yeah.
Fish ponds.
Well, it's 2 days. 2 days. Fish ponds and also the
Sportsman brought around it. Okay. Right. In that case, I think we'll. Oh, I know. Somewhere in here there should have been the. Oh yes, number 8 on the first list, which is the tree on the triangle. I did send a note out today because unfortunately the email from Milton Keynes came after the agenda had been published. But if we could just have a very quick discussion now. What Leo Hawkes and his experts there are recommending is that we put in they put in a monkey muzzle tree. I sent a photograph of it out, to the board as well to look at. I must say I was taken aback a bit because I was expecting a native species, but I know that they are looking very hard at trees that are disease resistant and so on.
Yeah.
And I suspect that's probably the reason that they've done that. What I would like to suggest, unless anyone's got any other views, is that I go back to the resident who's offered to put this £1,000 in, which again, for those of you watching on the live stream, Milton Keynes normally provide £300 for a tree, which basically buys you the size of tree that had just gone in 2 places in the fish ponds, or went in last year, which is relatively small. If it's with this extra money, which is being done, actually, I don't think there's any reason why this shouldn't be said. It's Marcia Jordan, and it was donations given in memory of Vic. And there's £1,000 which was collected, and that would allow a much finer specimen to go in, that hopefully will be more mature and so on. So if everybody's okay, I'll talk to Marcia and make sure she's happy with that. And if she is, then go forward. But does anyone else want to make any comments on it?
If you're going to put a monkey bubble tree in, I would like to see it fenced round for a day or a year or two.
Yeah.
Something round it, because that will certainly kids playing around it, etc. That will certainly hurt and damage.
Okay.
I've actually replied twice to the note that you put out already.
Yes, I know you have. And you
Okay,
said
well,
you were
I'm
fine. I saw you said it was
I think
fine.
I'll be glad if I got Marcy sense from you.
I'll be the same as David. I mean, Vic and Mark both love trees, and I'm sure that you should go to, so I'm sure you'll be
Yeah. Okay.
welcome of that chat.
Right, I will do that then. Right, ward councillors report. We have no ward councillors. Update on Carrington Close. Kay, who's been doing a grand job liaising with the builders and reporting back. Thank you, Kay, for doing that. I wrote asking if there was any update, and just to read for members of the public, I did a fuller reply so that everyone would be aware of what's happened. I said, last week, after repeated exchanges with John Palmer, head of planning, I wrote an email on Thursday asking for confirmation of actions by close of business on Friday. This has been going on for months. To which he replied that housing could only pause the 30% in the S106 agreement that had been allocated to them, but not the other 70%, to which I immediately replied, because the answer was on the Stonewater website, that they said that all rentals go through the local authority, so actually housing will be allocating all 100%, and asked again for his confirmation of action. That wasn't forthcoming, so over the weekend, that's not this weekend, weekend before, I wrote to the Chief Executive of Milton Keynes, Michael Bracey, and on Monday to our MP, Ben Everett, as well. Michael Bracey replied, unfortunately, completely misunderstanding my email, which we had actually checked with, a number of us had checked it before it went off. But anyway, I clarified what the point was, and he then passed it on to the Director of Planning, a man called Paul Thomas, who's John Palmer's boss. I heard nothing by Wednesday, so I did invite Paul Thomas perhaps to come to this meeting and give us an update. As I said, it was very important, to which he said he couldn't do. So I said, well, you'd be welcome to join us by Zoom and do that to save a trip. Or if you want to ask either Michael Bracey going up one or John Palmer going down one, that would also be welcome. No reply. I have actually annotated my email with all of the emails that I've sent to them, which was typically about 1 month in the first part of the year, except for July, when I think we were waiting for legal to come, to get a legal opinion. And then 13 since the middle of August. So, sometimes on 3 occasions, 2 on one day. It is just dreadful. So, I think we are in a position where I can only write again to Michael Bracey and Paul Thomas, saying how disappointed we are not to have received it. The only thing I would say, I'm sorry, I should have mentioned this, is that going back through all of these emails, I did find one that John Palmer had sent to us on the 9th of September, and I will read this. Hi Phil, as per my previous email, we are treating this case extremely seriously and ensuring that all relevant colleagues are fully cited and engaged. It is a matter that I've raised with my counterpart in legal services, and I've also discussed it with my director, Paul Thomas. The correspondence we're engaged in with the developer has been extremely clear in setting out the council's position. We are at the start of a potential legal process, should it progress that far, which would need to be defensible, should it be challenged. As is often the case in my experience in these high-profile cases, there tends to be a lack of appreciation, he's talking about us here, over that process and recognition that we cannot simply take a shortcut to a more formal stage. So in one sense, that sounds okay. The problem is that, as Kay has reported, we've got 2 houses occupied already, well, we've all seen that. That's correct. Kay has reported that there's 2 more going to be occupied on Friday and 2 more the week after that. And if you walk round, as I did yesterday, I think it was, you'll see that they've now opened up the site so that there are 12 houses in total that look, to me anyway, as if they're ready for occupation. I mean, all the paving's done, everything's done.
Craig nodding, so.
Yeah. So now the point really is that the allocations for rental housing is done entirely by Milton Keynes Housing, despite what they say they've only got legal rights over the 30%. In practice, they do all of them. Stonewater has no other way of doing it, because it uses the lists and the priorities and needs of people on the housing list. And the key point that Steve and I have been battering on about is that housing ought to pause these allocations until this S106 agreement is sorted out. And we cannot get a response on that. So I think I probably need to write again to Paul Thomas and Michael Bracey tomorrow, making him aware of the new information from Kay. I'll come back to Kay in just a moment. And I think quite possibly, I think the other option is writing again to Ben Everett and asking him to raise with the Ministry of, well, it's got a long title, Levelling Up Housing and Communities, whatever it is anyway, and basically saying that this is going to destroy the credibility of neighbourhood planning in Milton Keynes if you can't trust the local authority to stand by its S106 agreement.
It's not just neighbourhood plans, it's planning care as well.
Kay, I think you were wanting to speak, and I hope we'll all be able to hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, they've so when I spoke to the builders, they said they'd been given a final deadline of the end of November. So Stonewater obviously bringing forward their deadlines to get everything out of the way in the hope that they can get everything done. I'm not sure that writing things is actually doing anything. Maybe we need to start making phone calls. I'm happy to make phone calls if you want me to actually talk to these people, not obviously not face to face, but because the emails, that they're great emails, they're really well written and they say exactly what they should, but they're totally ignoring them, and they just seem to be playing the system. And that's Milton Keynes Council as well, I'm sorry, but the fact that you have sent a number of emails asking for response, the fact that they've got away with not doing a cease and desist by last excuse me, I'm full of cold as well. By last Friday, when they were supposed to, a week ago last Friday, nothing happened. So Phil then, obviously over the weekend, he wrote another email, and the fact that you haven't had a response from that one either, they just seem to be brushing us under the carpet, and it doesn't seem to be important to us. And we just need to find another way of going.
Yeah,
not working.
Farmer did refuse a call with us. I mean, we asked him and he said there's no point, we wouldn't take the call.
I just don't understand that. They're supposed to be there. Milton Keynes Council are supposed to be there to serve the people in Milton Keynes. We are those people, therefore. Do they do clinics or anything?
No.
I just think it's absolutely appalling. I really do.
I think it, I mean, I don't know whether they're doing something or not. You know, it's possible from the note on the 9th of September, but the very least they could say is that they are or they aren't.
Yeah, they need to update us. It's just this deafening silence and not actually giving us any information on such an important issue.
Yeah, it is an absolute disgrace.
Yeah.
John, I think John wanted to say something.
Yeah, I agree with what you said and what Kate has said, and this has been going on for a long time. Is it in a situation now where we can force the issue, are they or are they not, by putting an injunction on the houses there so that no one can occupy them?
No, our legal advice, John, is that only people who are party to the S106 can take action. So it has to be Milton Keynes Council. I do think there's a broader issue, which I did raise with John when he immediately said, oh no, you can't do that. That parish councils should be party to the S106, as they were in Thrupp Close.
Yeah, that's what I
But
thought.
he immediately said, no, parish councils can't be party to an S106. Well, he's wrong. They were, unless the law has changed since then. But
do we go the publicity way? Is that where we need to go to actually bring people's attention to this?
I'd said to Steve earlier today, you know, there are 3 courses of actions, writing to them, and I will, actually what I was going to do was to invite Paul Thomas out for a site visit, see if I could get him that way. And see how he reacts to that. The second one was to get Ben Everett to try and raise it with the minister to get a ministerial list. But I mean, to be honest, the time that's going to involve will be, you know, quite lengthy.
We haven't got time. It needs to happen now. I mean, anything that we do, it's got to be immediate because.
Well, yes, I know, Kate. That's what I've been saying. So I think going to Ben Everett may be a way, but I don't think it will give us the urgency we want.
It's conference week as well, Chair.
It's conference week as well, yeah. I think we're also, the other thing we did talk about was publicity, but we've got to be very careful with this. I mean, we brought this land forward as a village of our own accord. And I think that was really doing our bit to provide housing in Milton Keynes. And we expected, and it was written into the S106 contract, that as it is with all major developments in Milton Keynes, that there would be 30% affordable housing. But for us to say we don't want, 100%, the entire estate to be social housing, I do worry that could be misconstrued in the public domain as us being NIMBYs or fancy people living in villages and all the rest of it, despite the fact that.
Turn it round and say, actually, what we want is some village, what we were promised, which is some, and what we're here for, is to actually we were promised some houses for the people in the village, for the young people in the village, for older people who want to stay in the village but need to downsize. Surely we don't want to say we don't want that. What we want is what we were promised in the first place. No,
that was in the neighbourhood plan, Kate. It was never promised. It's not in the S106 agreement. It's not in the planning permission.
But that was the whole point, surely, of having some houses that people could buy, smaller houses that for some of the local people as well.
Yeah, but that argument doesn't stand up against 100% affordable.
That doesn't. Yeah, that's the point, as David's just said. Right. Anybody else want to speak on this? What I'll do, I will try and I will write and invite him out. If I still don't get an answer, and I'll copy Michael Bracey back in. I will try phoning him, but I've got a horrible feeling he won't take my call because they wouldn't before. Anyway,
I just wonder whether if you invite him for a site visit, one of the aspects that can take that, the very least you could do is whip the people that are on the list from Castlethorpe and allocate some houses for those. So what I'm suggesting is changing the pecking order of the list.
Well, the thing is,
I don't think councils can do that.
No,
they can. In some ways they can.
Let me just say, There is a new housing allocations policy that was published in July of this year. And it says, the policy now gives greater priority to victims of domestic abuse, young people leaving care, members of the armed forces and people with a connection to the city. Some of the key changes include priority consideration for, and the first bullet is people with a strong local connection to the area, having lived in Milton Keynes for at least 3 years and without any long-term rent arrears. And then it goes on for the other ones.
Could we use that, Chair?
Well, that is meant to be happening anyway.
It's supposed to be, it isn't. So
Yeah.
if we raise the question and say that,
But it's Milton Keynes, not Castlethorpe. So all these people, everybody on the housing list is a resident of Milton Keynes, even though they may, what do you do? If they
the
live
front
in
line,
so-
the front line takes care of that by saying people with a strong local connection. Milton Keynes is one of the greatest growing cities in the country.
Yeah,
Yeah,
That therefore reads as Castlethorpe local connection.
yeah.
no, it doesn't.
No, it doesn't. Castlethorpe local connection is included in it, but it is people with a connection to Milton.
But we can't even get housing to engage with us.
Yeah,
I
that's
copied
true.
Victoria Collins on, a number of those emails.
Mm.
She's the head of housing, well, head of all of that area. She's the director level. And nothing came back. Yeah,
You just think they've got 490 million, the same amount of houses being built in Castlethorpe now. There's another 51 going in for by the invented centre. And obviously there must be a number of social houses up there in that predicament.
oh yeah.
And
yeah.
how many,
never
yes,
gonna
but
be
how many
social
local
housing, is
people, we're going to say, oh, they're going to send them out of Milton Keynes. We've got to give our locals a chance. Everything I've always stood for is give them a chance. And if they can't do something about it, I cannot understand.
Yeah, I mean, I have pointed out that there is, 150 affordable homes that are just coming on the market in Hanslow.
And some of them belong to Stonewall.
And some of them are stonewaters. But, we're all violently agreeing with each other here, but it's actually, deciding on a particular line of action. Steve?
Yeah, could I just point out, Chair, that if you see someone, and I don't think they've got any obligation to respond, but if you wrote to the Director of Housing Direct and said, we are not getting any answers on what situation allocating these houses is, and whether you should be ceasing to allocate them until SMS is sorted out. A direct email addressed to her.
All right, I'll try.
The other thing I was going to say is there any chance or any senators having a word with Hanslow and any problems they've had up there, not their parish council?
No, that'd be a separate entity.
Yeah.
Completely.
Can we get George on it again?
He's in conference, okay.
Yeah, I mean, I'm assuming George and Liam are both up in at the conference this week. Yeah. Well, they may not be, but
But I think actually there may be, so forgive me, Chair, I do think the point Steve raised is quite important. If we just say, can you cease allocating the houses, which you are doing, and they shouldn't be. If you cease allocating the houses until this mess is sorted out, is at least then.
no, that's what I asked.
Yeah.
I asked that. In fact, I asked that.
I'm
somewhere
sorry, I
in
thought
the
you were
middle
going
of
to
August.
repeat the
You've asked
question.
Several times.
Yeah, I know you have, I thought you said that you were
But
going to
Paul-
repeat the request straight to the Director.
Paul Thomas has no sway over housing.
Right.
Which is why I wrote to Michael
Yeah,
Bracey,
of
because
course,
he's the only place, if you look at the organisation chart, that housing, legal and planning come together organisationally.
And he left it down to Paul Thomas. So you're in the same
That's called the
position.
Department of Inefficiency.
Right,
I guess, is it?
I think we need to move on a bit. Kay, last word from you.
Can we go back to our legal guys and say, look, this is what's happening. What on earth can we do to make something happen if they're totally ignoring everything that we're doing?
No, I mean, we could do, of course, but they have already told us, and they've told us we have got no legal standing in this because we're not in the S106. And what's worse is that Milton Keynes Council, although they have a power to enforce the S106, they do not have a duty to do so. So they
We just
actually.
need to turn up at their offices and sit there until they do something. I'll sleep there. I'll get a sleeping bag.
We'll get Oliver to weld shut the doors of the civic office.
I'll take a few casual cards.
Yeah. Right, I think we need to move on. I mean, it's a terrible situation and we're all very frustrated.
We mustn't let it go on people moving in though, because they're no part of this, are they?
No, and I specifically, in my last newsletter that went out, I made a point of saying anyone who comes into the village must be welcome.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we will welcome them. And, yeah. Right, let's move on now. Streetlight upgrade, I mean, I think we've already had it. It's plodging along on it, they're ordering bits. The Station Road issue, I don't know if you saw, they're doing the survey next week on where they can put the streetlights. And I'll be pretty cross if they say that they can't do it, because when you look at where the existing streetlights are and where the power cables must be, I think it would be a load of nonsense for them to say, oh, there isn't enough power. There's
Plenty of room for new lights in Station Road, yeah. And if you look at the distance between them, down the far end, the difference is half what it is at the other end. So what they say.
Right, let's move on then to section 5, which is the planning applications. 5.1 is just a notification, and if you read it, it says this is not a planning application. We're not asking for permission, we're just telling you we're doing it. So shall we pass over that?
Yeah.
I'd like Russell perhaps to lead on 5.2.
Yeah, this is an application to West Northants Council for a big, it looks like a warehouse facility with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, one huge warehouse and 8 big warehouses, which will be situated in Cosgrove between the first turning when you come up from the Old Stratford roundabout and the A5 roundabout, and the size of it means that I'll just hopefully show you the picture of an artist's impression.
Yeah, it's got the picture.
There, so it's going to be quite a large development, which means there will be a lot of extra lorries using the A508. And this will cause not only traffic problems, but pollution problems as well, because of the diesel. The A508 is the primary diversion route off the M1 whenever there's roadworks or an accident. And as everybody will know, it is used several times a year because of that. And even now, without the extra lorries, it's jam-packed and tailbacks on it whenever that happens. It's also at rush hours in the morning still quite extremely busy as well. The parish council at Cosgrove are against it. They've put it on their website as well. It will have an impact on people in Castlethorpe because of the extra traffic, and also for the people of Cosgrove, there's a possibility it might lead to flooding as well because of the sheer size of the buildings.
I could probably share this for anyone watching at home. Yeah, so I mean, you're proposing, I guess, that we do object.
Yes, it was originally scheduled for just environmental concerns, but it's now for a full-scale planning application.
My only comment to that is, I mean, you've only got to go just outside Toaster now.
Yeah.
Great big traffic going up.
Oh yeah, so
You've got the drift up Rugby. It's horrendous down there at Daventry, all the way up there. Tesco's and Sainsbury's and all that. I mean, that's a building up there. I mean, why? I mean, even if you go round some of the units in Milton Keynes, why are they empty? So what are we building more close to us?
well, I mean, unfortunately, I don't think that's ground for an objection. I think the grounds for an objection would be in terms of traffic volumes and environmental issues. I think you wrote a covering note to all of us.
Yes.
Are you proposing that is basically used as the grounds for our objection?
Yeah. I can't remember what I actually wrote specifically, but as well as being the M1 to primary diversion route, it's also a diversion route whenever the A5 is.
Yeah.
is-
Are we okay to actually object on our own rights?
Yes.
Or do we have to-
Yeah.
No, anybody can object.
Right, okay,
And it's a neighbouring parish.
yes.
And also, individual people that don't live in the area can also object, because it affects them, as it will.
Sorry, Russell, did I see that? You know,
Yes, you should have done.
okay, I'll do that.
I'll send
I
it
don't recall seeing that.
Yeah.
I firstly resisted incredulity because I thought with the development of junction 15 of the M1 where the freight line is
I
going
would have thought it wasn't
I
necessary.
would have thought that was necessary. I would have thought this is backs up here and there's empty boxes. And this is just speculative stuff and it will definitely impact. I think the risk of flooding in Cosgrove goes much higher. The pollution it's going to bring to here and sheer congestion and the breakup of roads as well.
Yeah.
But I think, Russell, you've got most likely you've got all of it.
Got on it, yeah.
Okay, so rather than go any further, on
Yes.
this, we all again violently agree.
Yes,
So can we all vote to adopt Russell's wording? Yeah.
yes.
In objection. Right, let's move on then. On the section 6, which is report back on previous planning applications. I'm just stop this sharing. I don't think there's anything we need to discuss in there, but does anyone have anything in section 6?
No.
Right, let's move on to section 7, which is a formal.
All I would let number 6, it says here about caravans going down Station Road.
We've got a separate item on that.
Yeah, that's next.
So if I can move now, I propose that we have a part 2 of the meeting, where we'll stop the live stream. So John is seconding it. All, yeah, in favour? Yeah, that's unanimous. 7.2 is to prepare and distribute a welcome to Castlethorpe brochure. Russell.
I have actually started work on it. I don't know whether somebody could just point it to the camera so.
I'll just point it out. I'll do the background.
Sports page.
There you go.
Losing 3.
The back, sorry, the back at the moment is bus timetable, but it's hardly legible. But it's going to have details of everything in the village, including all the organisations, the village hall, sports ground, useful numbers, and stuff like that. Also, a brief history of the village as well.
Yeah, no, I think it's very useful, and I think it just now needs fiddling with basically to get it into the appropriate format.
I don't know whether it's worth printing it for every house of the village. Just the new people.
Well, shall we wait until we get
Yeah, let's get it cracking and then decide.
I mean, and we need to publicise it so that neighbours can get copies.
Yeah. I think it's very good.
Yeah, it
The
is.
idea and what's in front of us,
Yeah.
yeah, so.
I mean, I'm so grateful actually, because I said to Russell, I've had this on my to-do list literally for years, and just never managed to get off the bottom of it. So thank you. Okay, we'll all give our comments.
Yeah.
There are some things that are missing from it.
If you could put, instead of putting my house number, put my mobile, please.
Yeah, okay. Let me know.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's not good lady run off the phone, so pass it on.
Right. Then 7.3 is to publicise volunteering projects done by charity organisation Volunteering Matters. There's a note on this, isn't there? Is that the private service? Oh, I see, it's all 3 of them.
Really, it's a request to ask whether we can help and how we can help with publicity.
Well, I don't think there's any problem with their using social media.
No.
But are they asking for more? Are they asking for
They're not
coffee
asking,
mornings?
not asking for money, right?
They were, I think they've had church meetings and that's needed.
I mean, it might be that we just agree to put the flyers up on, on social media.
That's
I
not
don't think there's any much more that we can.
the only social gathering that we can have is community, but I don't think the people that come to community are ready.
No,
No,
they're not going to be the target.
they're not the 18 year olds.
Okay, so we'll agree to support that. 7.4 is the usual donations for Remembrance Day. £30 for the band and for the British Legion. Royal British Legion. I'll propose, need a second's money again. Dave, and everyone in favour, yeah? Thank you. To note the external auditor's report on the do you want to take us through this, Steve?
Really, it's just something for parish council to note the report on complete successful completion of the audit. There was one problem where I transposed a number wrongly from last year to this year that didn't really matter, and put that right. So it's just a sign off of the audit, really. Russell has worked to put the completion notice and also the AGAR funds onto the.
Do we need to publish this as well?
Sorry, yeah, that's the one that I think I sent that with the AGAR.
So this is for
This
everybody's.
is on the notice boards as well.
Yeah, thanks, Russell.
So everybody knows this is basically the publication of the parish council's accounts for last year.
Yearly.
Year that ended in April of this year, which by law we have to make available, and indeed in good practice we should make available. Right, and I saw a note from Val saying there were a lot of problems with PFK Little John, but
No,
that didn't affect us.
we had no problems. They sent us through the completion report and an invoice.
Right. Well, right. So we've now got a payment schedule in 8.1.
A couple of additions there, 6 or 7 now. But I sent out, I did actually post the payment schedule around lunchtime, since when we've had 4
Just
additional
assume it was
entries.
last month, Steve.
So,
I'll kick in on
yeah. So essentially, normal stuff, we're paying for the condolence folder and sheets, for the condolence book for Her Majesty. Property care, replaced some lights at the village hall. Be careful, John audit fee, the remainder of the tennis court cost. The tennis club are making a donation to the parish council, which covers all bar a few hundred, and they said they'll make a donation for the remainder later.
Oh, that's
when
good.
this year's
That's good.
when this year's fees are in.
Can I just check how we're doing with the cricket, talking about donations?
Yeah, we have had one payment for them. I need to get my head around it. We have had the first payment or the first donation.
First donation.
That they promised. Then I need to actually itemise that separately.
Okay. Yeah,
But-
find out when that's coming in. Yeah.
We've got,
We need a sports meeting.
yeah, we should have one, shouldn't we?
Too right.
Right, the wind speed payment is I think it's called the whirly bird at the fish ponds play area. The 4 seats are cracked, and when we have a look at it, the company that manufactures in Whitstead was printed on the seat. So I've taken and delegated spending authority to actually approve a spending of £391 to buy 4 more seats and fixing. Good. So when they come in, I'll go ahead and order. When they come in, we need a handy fella to,
As long as John doesn't play on, we're all right.
yeah, so we'll have the seats. No, they look like they fit. And,
It's the handy phone.
well, to actually take the old seats off and put the new
It's
seats
just,
on.
they're just bolted on.
Just bolted on.
I mean, anyone handy could do it, I couldn't.
I've got a battery angle grinder.
Yeah.
Lead and bolt around.
I must say, it's a bit-
But I mean, when we see it coming with the fixing, Michael Lever's invoice for replacing the post up by the by Castlefield opposite the shop, and the British Legion in Silverstand. And the usual direct debits.
We've got an annual, that ID net is the annual one, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Right, any questions on that? In that case, shall I propose, and John proposed, and I'll second it, and all in favour?
Yeah.
No, that's very good. Right, moving on then to correspondence. We've had a letter in, actually I should have asked you if you could have a look at this.
Sorry, I meant to go down and look before.
Yeah, I walked down to look at something at Shepperton and to look at it on my way back and managed to avoid doing it.
I mean, I walked through there yesterday.
Yeah.
And, I mean, I wasn't looking for anything, but I didn't
Yeah,
see the problem.
if you could, if it is, I mean, this isn't for us,
Yeah,
yeah, because it belongs to, we think, housing. Peace housing.
They took the garage down.
That's right. So, you know, it needs to be reported to them, but we just need to know what's to be reported.
Oh,
If you can have a look and just take a picture or something,
Yeah.
and then we can fill it up.
What I'll do, Dave, is I'll forward you the whole email.
yeah, if you could, I think I know the guy. anyway.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
proceed that bit, and he's
Yeah.
talking about there being rats down.
Well, the sooner you do that, Steve, I'll go down and
Yeah,
check
I'll
it
be
out.
able to remind you. Yeah, okay. 9.2, a resident's asked about a street light in New Road that's been removed, and asked for it to be reinstated. This is the one that's, as you go down, it's about halfway down on, or used to be halfway down on the right. And the problem with it was that the electrical supply is actually in the road. And although they did that when they put the original street light in, it can't be done now because it's against regulations to have a power supply and street light actually in the public highway. I think it's being a bit precious really, because you know, you're not actually going to drive into it because there's a hedge all around it. But anyway, that was what Milton Keynes street lighting did say. But they also said that the light from the new LED lights, from the adjacent lights, is so much better and well directed, they don't think it will be necessary. But if the resident complains, and I've written to him actually, to tell him this, if he complains after the street lights have been upgraded, then they'll come and have another look, and they might be able to put a street light in somewhere else. But yeah, okay. And a resident reported that large holiday homes have been transported along Station Road. Did we find out whether that was done?
No, I wrote,
I saw you wrote,
I
yeah.
didn't get a response back, and I meant
So
to chase it.
who's given us this one
This is a resident in Station Road. So the point really is, if the caravans are going down towards the navigation, arguably,
Why don't they come off the 508?
that's the way, well, then they might not, should have come out of the A508, but if they come out by Havisham or some bizarre thing like that, you could say, well, that's actually the way they're meant to go, rather than down Foxcovert Lane. If they're coming the other way, then it is rather odd as to why they would be coming that way, because presumably it would only be because they're going to go down Foxcovert Lane.
Shall we carry forward and I'll find out which way there?
There was one went through, a very big one went through Cosgrove, which caused consternation on the Cosgrove Facebook page, because they didn't think they should have big lorries going through their narrow streets down, they should all go through Castlethorpe.
Yeah,
That's what the people of Cosgrove said.
but that is the improved
in the rules, is to go through Cosgrove.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah,
well, there we go. I
Before
mean,
we leave that whole subject of lights and a bit, can I just say that from what I've seen, the walkway from Checkers at the fish ponds end, going across the field, Gold Field, and over the bridge, there doesn't seem to be any light at all now. I don't know whether that's planned, but there was no light there at all.
no, there will be 3 lights. There's the one at the end of the Checkers by the entrance into the fish ponds, and that will be replaced. In fact, I think that's been replaced, hasn't it? I don't know what it's been replaced.
Well, there's been none.
to a heritage style.
Okay.
Then there is one which is on the boundary between the fish ponds and Gobbins. And that one will be replaced by a heritage style.
bridge.
And then there's one by the bridge, which will be replaced by a modern street light. Because if you remember, we decided that that was so high that it was going to look silly if you stuck a heritage style lamp on the top.
Yeah.
So those 3 will be done.
Well, perhaps they're in the process of doing that, but there's no light at all at night.
Yeah. I mean, I've written to them complaining about, I think it's number NS9, just opposite the school.
Well, I've reported that as well.
Yeah, I mean, I've reported it, I think, in January, May, and August. And they just don't seem, I mean, they just don't seem to be doing, and I keep saying, I have reported this, you know,
Yeah,
since last winter.
because Phil, the chairman, he contacted me last week to pick it up, so I just reported it, but
Yeah,
I'll actually write them tomorrow.
yeah.
Not just going to do it good, is it?
Well, I suspect it's because they're waiting to replace it with LED.
Yeah.
But it's an odd thing, because down in Station Road, where a bulb went, they not only replaced the bulb, but the fitting had obviously gone, and they replaced the whole fitting with a modern one.
Mm.
So why?
There's no joy in thinking.
There's no logic to them. Right, anything else, or can we move on then?
We did have one resident come forward to volunteer to be the editor of Castlethorpe News.
Ah,
That's the good news. The bad news is that we had to go with the software and she didn't feel confident doing it. So she said she's very sorry she can't do it. So we're still looking for an editor for Castlethorpe News.
well, I mean, you know, with all, words modesty, but could we just produce something that is not as fancy? I mean, in days past.
Yes, can do, but you still need somebody to write it.
No, but would she be prepared to be the editor?
I did say that. I don't know whether she would. She didn't. I think, but I think basically, I don't know. I don't think she would.
Well, I mean, it might be worth asking whether she, I mean, even if she produced it in Word, with a banner, you know, on the front page, and, you know, just produced either 4 or 8 sheets, you know, of content. The work is really rounding up people.
Yeah.
To write the articles, isn't it? And why else? But I'll just plug on. Dave.
Got one. I did actually ask for it on the agenda, but I forgot.
Oh, sorry,
It's this one. It's down to me. I got approached by one of my neighbours in Checkers, requesting a bench to be put into the Checkers.
Sorry, you did.
And
Yeah.
she said there's quite a lot of elderly people there in the Checkers. She said she's been approached them. They all go out for a little group together sometimes. And she's asked about if we can have a bench up by the fish ponds, but not in the fish ponds. So as you go up the Checkers to the top,
You got a D junction.
you want the bench actually facing and looking back at the Checkers, which, well, I don't know. She said a lot of them, that's about as far as they can walk. And they can't get in to the fish ponds and get over there. It's slow. So a lot of them go down, they want to sit down and have a little rest. I think it's a valid request, to be honest.
Yes. It won't be long before that pencil league doing that chain link, will it?
That's right,
The
yeah.
good idea there is we perhaps think about it in future for a future thing for the agenda. We could perhaps put a post and rail fence there with a seat included, build it into the fence for the fish pond. So you could have the bench sort of
Yeah. I mean, I'm not explaining this very well, but the way it was put to me, it actually sounded like a reasonable request. Because initially I thought, you must be joking. But then when she explained that, you know, people just do tot around.
Yeah.
Sorry, that's a bit of a big opposite word to use, but they get up to top of the time and they just want somewhere to sit down.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, okay, all right, well, let's have a little bit more of a think about it.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I mean, Ian's idea might be a bit more, I must say, I thought we were
I
going
think
to say,
that's a good idea.
put benches almost, 2 benches almost facing each other on that green by your house, you know.
Yeah, but that she said that bench gets used a lot.
I can see where it's coming from, because you get the people in those big photos, they come up across the road, they walk up to the top, find the fish ponds, and back round, and come down here past the other side, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And that's what they've been doing for years.
yeah, I think my concern on that was the 2 owners of houses either side of that, that will have people sitting outside their front door, which isn't quite right. But
Well,
then
that's right.
Ian raised a very good point. If you can take the rail back and put the bench in there,
Yeah.
I think this is one we might need to think about a bit more.
I think we've got to sit down there and have, 2 or 3 of us get there and meet there.
Yeah.
And see what we can come up with an idea.
Yeah.
I think your idea is a good one, actually.
I
building
agree.
into that. You could almost set it back off the public highway.
Exactly.
Just off the path.
And actually, the good thing about that strip of land is it's not part of the scheduled ancient monument.
No, it's not.
So you can put those in without having to get
Yeah.
historic England and all the rest.
And there's space there to do it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
in all fairness, I think that's where she.
I think that's a good idea, yeah.
Right, so
Okay.
shall we say that between Ian and Dave, we'll bring a proposal to the next meeting? And I'll put it on the agenda.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you happy with that, Ian?
All right, not a problem. And I will this time. So-
No.
November.
Right, now.
Sorry, it's
okay.
got to be.
Well, we've got a really big one to talk about, which is preschool, but Ian, go on.
A lot of people have mentioned, is this by the shop, this piece of road here, up to the chestnut, top of the triangle, the road badly needs doing.
Yeah.
And people have said to me, and I've spoken to quite a few residents in Hanslow, but they've put their new bumps in, the tarmac bumps in.
Gosh,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
severe.
That the first ones are there,
Yeah.
but you look at the ones up nearer the top, nobody, I've talked, still 4 people up the last month I've seen up there, and I've asked them, it doesn't affect them, it does slow the motors down, because for long we're going to have a bad accident there, because we're all swerving around that one that's there. So they've got to retarmac the road before long, because that's in the dire straight. If we put a nice gentle, long one, tarmac, you no need to have it maintained with that old rubber except.
Well, I think that is a good idea, Ian. I have to say, those new ones in Hanslow, I do find incredibly vicious.
The first 3, yes.
I mean,
Yeah.
by comparison, for
Yeah, so
example, with the ones in Havisham.
I hit the first one thinking it's just like the others.
Yeah.
But I confess I did the same, but they just put the same ones in on the other side on the Salty.
Yeah.
On Cosgrove.
Yeah. They put in again, it's another 3 there.
But having said all that, I mean, I think it is a good idea. The problem will be that those were installed as part of an S106 agreement with the housing developments that went on. So they had to put traffic calming in. If we ask for it, they might turn around and say, we've got to pay for it. Now, we could go for a community infrastructure grant or something in due course, but they should be replacing the one that they took out without charge.
Yeah.
So
The other one's getting just as much as a mess.
yeah, I mean, I mean, the road is basically subsiding.
Yes, it is.
So we'll have a go at perhaps
Shall we-
contacting.
There's that guy that came out with
Mark McDonald.
Mark McDonald.
And the other one I've got was, I brought it up at the last meeting, somebody asked me, 2 people asked me the same question. Is there planning permission, or has there got to be planning permission on the dog walking down Water Road?
Sorry, in that actions with me, I've got an action to find out from the people in planning.
Yeah, we
Because
discussed
people are quite concerned about it now, with the other one coming up.
Yeah, sorry, Chair, I have one very quick one before we get to the preschool one.
Yeah.
Speaking to a lady that's just moved into Carrington Close, she said that she was walking the dogs and kids over the railway bridge by Russell down towards the fish ponds. And she said that the path down there, it's not very well defined where the step is. And she nearly went further. You know, you come over the railway bridge, through the gate, and then right and left and down the path, and there's a step.
Oh, yes.
Step halfway along.
Yeah,
At the top of Gobbins, yeah.
Yeah, top of Gobbins, and she said that it's really not very well marked.
It's not.
And it looked like and we'll know it's there,
Yeah.
Yeah,
but somebody needs to village it, and she wondered whether it should be.
I mean,
somewhere.
yeah, and all it really needs is a strip of white paper.
Strip of white paint.
yellow.
Yeah, not
Yeah,
white,
yeah.
white path, white paint.
Yeah.
I haven't got the yellow paint. Oh,
Sorry.
sorry, I've got white and yellow paint, yes. I'll have a look.
Okay, that'd be good. Russell.
It's just a reminder that it's pack testing day on Wednesday, for the sports ground and the village hall.
Yeah.
So that if anybody has any electrical equipment in here, in the village hall or the sports ground, it needs to be brought out on Tuesday night.
Yeah, well, Russell was saying that they actually did the testing up in the,
No, I'm saying that it would make sense for them to do it.
What to go up into the.
Yeah, it's basically all that they do, they just, it's the plugs.
Because I am going to be struggling to actually do it.
Well, Dave, do give me a call if you need
Yeah.
a hand getting the stuff down. I'm quite happy just to put down.
Is it, well, I'll talk to you later about how the stuff's packed in the boxes.
Well, it's not the boxes. It's all on cables.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, we do them up and we put cable ties around them.
Yeah, but is the plug bit or the connector bit easily accessible?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
right,
Yeah.
it shouldn't be a problem.
Yeah. The only thing on some of them is that they may be middle bits, you see what I mean? So it's not a 3-pin plug, it's a
No,
kind of
Connector.
it's sort of connector.
Yeah.
yeah.
It's basically they can probe both bits of the connections.
I'll be. I've actually got Lawrence chat that said he'll come up and help as well. So.
I'll be, as long as you've got some, yeah,
Still a check.
right. I think we now need just to come to this last item, which is that the preschool have given notice to quit. They just can't make a go at it with the hours that we can give them. Russell, would you like to?
Yes, it's basically they can't attract enough children because parents get 30 hours, the most that they can give them because of the other booking, the other regular bookings that there are in the afternoons. Is they can't do Monday, Wednesday, or Friday because they're already booked for long-term things. So the most they can give is 26 hours, whereas nurseries such as Acorn can do the full 30 hours. As a result, they're struggling to find enough children to make it viable and actually now make them losing money on it.
Yeah, well, I mean, we have supported them with, well, advertising financially by giving them rent-free periods and reduced rate periods. I don't think there's any more that we as a parish council could do. They need more hours than we could give. We have 3 events during the week, which 2 of which we really couldn't move, which are the 2 bookings from the school. I think they've been doing that since Adam was a lad. So, we've got to continue to honour that. And clearly that's during school hours, which is the same as preschool hours. And then, of course, we've also got community, which is starting to build up again. And I really am quite keen to see that maintained. And that is really 2 till 4 is almost the only time of day when it's convenient, particularly with the lights starting to go now.
Yes.
And so I just don't see how we can really move those three weekly bookings. So it's, I think we just have to accept the notice, which is going to, as Russell's previously said, give us a huge hole in our village hall finances. We do have to discuss termination terms. I did discuss this with Steve beforehand, and I think, Steve, you feel that this ought to be a formal discussion, where there's a notice given, it's a published agenda. But what we can do is we could do it via Zoom to say, all coming down here. And we could also specifically invite the members of the Village Hall Committee to join us. And they wouldn't be able to vote, but we would certainly hear their views on what the termination would be. Is that okay with everyone? Yeah. I'm sorry, Ian.
There's not a lot we can do.
No. I don't think there's anything we can do with preschool. We'll obviously have to try and see if there's anything else that can pick it up. But I mean, it is a problem with this being used. Well, it's not a problem. It's what it's a community law. It's a community law. It's not just a preschool bill. And I think we have to honour that. It does give us a financial problem, of course. And that's something that will have to be perhaps discussed subsequently with the Village Hall Committee. But if we go ahead and we have this, we can discuss period of notice and termination charges.
7:30 next Monday, for Zoom.
Is it possible to do it before then?
Well, with 3 works, if I issue notice
3
tomorrow,
working
I'm
days,
do it today.
Yes, it's got
That
to be.
would be Thursday. Now, you leave your relative next Monday.
Next Monday.
I think when you said before that, you meant
This week.
this week as opposed to 7 o'clock.
I meant days.
Yeah.
The one thing we have got going for us, I suspect, it's become quite obvious, is that since COVID has started to wane, more and more people are making the opportunity to get out. And it could be that some of the classes for fitness and so on will come back in here.
You're in the kids club, and I'm not.
There are actually yoga and
Pilates.
and what used to be Zumba, it's now called dance movement. I guess it's not a Zumba lessons.
Right. Still
The
looking.
Pilates lady, I think, is going to be doing it online. Because she did that during COVID, and it was quite successful.
Well, I mean, we can only
Yeah,
encourage, but that's not ready for now. So we'll call a meeting for next Monday at 7:30 via Zoom, and we'll invite the Village Hall Committee members as well. Right, is there anything else before we close the public part of the meeting? No? Okay then. Well, thank you everyone for watching, if you managed to last right through till now. Our next meeting is Monday the 7th, I think it is, of November, at 7:30. So we'll see you then. I'll now stop the live stream.